All right, everyone, welcome into episode 151 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. I'm Nicola, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, and joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazeli. And Gus, how are we doing here on this Wednesday evening here in the middle of October?
I'm doing great, Neil Hill. I'm doing great. Just came back from Civic Center here, where we had another quarterfinal games of the Americana City Championship First Division. Um, kind of like we're talking on WhatsApp. It's kind of like the kind of spirit, like the same spirit of high school football. It's like neighborhood rivalries. You tend like one neighborhood against another neighborhood, but it involves more money because it's a lot of people that have small businesses and other side things that want to spend money, and even pro players sometimes left pro soccer and come play for those teams. For example, Cidade Jardim, the team that was covering today, have players that play like first division in the state of Sao Paulo, play in Rio Branco, play internationally. So you know this team was loaded and they won 4-1. So very ready to start the pod, and a lot of
Yeah,
sports happen here in Americana, in Brazil, and throughout the world.
absolutely. It sounds like a very interesting tournament, just based on what you're describing to me and how it brings together whole communities in in Brazil and in
Yeah,
America.
yeah, it kind of yeah, it does. It's, for example, it was two neighborhoods from two different areas of Americana today that those teams were like rooted for. It's like if, for example, a team from Farragut played against a team from Fulton. That's what's kind of compared to high school, because normally high schools represent the neighborhoods they're in. That's what city championships represent, not only Americana but in throughout Brazil as a whole. It's gaining more and more popularity every day, and our YouTube channel Gus Nadia is practically the only that broadcasts live games. So I'm proud to be one of the broadcasting places.
Absolutely, and you can show those games too because
Yeah,
there are no
yeah,
broadcasting right.
yeah. Since it's amateur soccer, there's no broadcasting rights. So I can show the games, there's no problem, full image. And, today I had like a peak of 300 plus people watching. So that was really cool. So that was,
Absolutely, that is awesome. I mean, definitely better quality too than some of our local high school attempts at broadcasting games on the internet. I've seen some really bad examples of trying to broadcast high school football around here. But one thing I want to acknowledge before we get into the show is we are basically at our 3-year anniversary of this podcast. We started it this week 3 years ago. The very first topic we talked about was an event that happened 3 years ago today, the infamous debris storm in the Ole Miss Tennessee game in 2021 when Lane Kiffin returned to Knoxville as head coach. And it's crazy to think about. We've basically been here the entire Josh Heupel era.
yeah, practically this podcast kind of, live with all the ups and downs of the Josh Hype era of Tennessee football. And Saturday, it was a very ups and downs, and thankfully was very up ending.
Oh, absolutely. Before we get into that, I just want to know if we do have a couple of championships going on right now. We have game 3 of the WNBA Finals. The New York Liberty have stormed back from a 15-point deficit. They lead now 77-73 over the Minnesota Lynx. Breonna Stewart and Sabrina Ionesco, of course, the two stars of the New York Liberty, absolutely balling here late. Sabrina just hit a 3. So, and she is fired up. So Sabrina Ionesco expanded into a 4-point lead. Breonna Stewart has a double-double, like 30 points, 10 rebounds tonight. She's absolutely killing the Minnesota Lynx, and it's only a best of 5, so whoever wins this game tonight will be one game away from a championship. Additionally, we have game 3 of the NLCS here, top of the 6th inning. We have the Los Angeles Dodgers leading the New York Mets at home 2-0. And okay, that's going to go into the stands there. So the inning still continues. 1-1 series there.
Yeah, and here Brazil as well. 12 minutes into the second half, Sao Paulo winning 2-0 Vasco, week 30 of the Brazilian Championship. The game is played here near where I live, Campinas. So a lot of Sao Paulo fans from Americana probably are there cheering for Sao Paulo against Vasco in Campinas.
Oh, absolutely. But let's get back to kind of what you were referencing, Gus, here, starting with some college football, because man, Saturday night was an inflection point for the Josh Heupel era in the Tennessee football program, because if Tennessee had somehow lost to Florida again, and we talked about this last week, how it would have been devastating for Josh Heupel. To lose that game. And it looked like, honestly, for a lot of this game, it was going to happen. For the second straight week in a row, we saw a 3-0 deficit at halftime. The offense couldn't do anything in that first half. Actually, I want to see, so I've been making a lot of TikToks recently. I want to see, can I pull up? Yes. So I'm going to try to see if I can take this and play my thoughts at halftime, because
and while you do that, it was a home run for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's a 2-run home run for Hernandez, his second home run of this postseason. The Dodgers extend the lead 4-0 against my New York Mets.
All right, so these are the thoughts that I had at halftime of Tennessee, Florida. So you'll kind of get a look into the psyche of where we were at halftime.
I don't know why I can't hear. I think, did you activate sound?
Let's see. Okay, did I activate sound? Let's try this again.
Yeah, you have to activate sound when you put the extra screen. I probably think so. Send me that video again. I'll try to put it here.
Here, it's in the chat. If you just go back to Saturday in our.
Okay, sounds fair. Oh, definitely.
Let me see.
Yeah,
save to.
I found it. I found it.
Yeah, because I just want to reference this.
Pull up.
Here, I'll stop sharing my screen. I just want to reference this because I just want to. So to set this up, Tennessee had only beaten Florida 2 times for the past.
This Oregon fan point.
Yeah, so Tennessee
only beat
Florida. Yes. But just to set this clip up, Tennessee had only beaten Florida 2 times since 2004, heading into Saturday, and I had come to expect, when it comes to this Florida game, to expect, anything that can go wrong to go wrong, right? And that's what we were starting to see on Saturday. So just take a listen to my thoughts at halftime.
Yeah, we're here at halftime of Tennessee, Florida, and like this Oregon fan pointed out in the comments section, it's been a rough first half once again. For the second straight week, the Vols are down 3-0 at halftime, this time to Florida, because our offense is an absolute disaster. No offensive line. It makes no sense. We have the third most experienced offensive line in the country, and we literally can't do anything to protect Nico. And then when Nico does have protection, he's overthrowing guys. He's throwing into double coverage. He has 2 turnovers already on. It's starting to look like the $8 million NIL investment was a bad one. And I hate it because I have a lot of faith in Nico. I have a lot of hope for Nico. But good God, does he not? He just doesn't look like he is. He doesn't look like he's ready yet. And, man, I don't have the confidence we're going to win this one. I mean, it's Florida. We've won 2 times in the last 2 years. It looks terrible. It does not look like a situation I want to be developing right now in Knoxville.
Yeah, so, I mean, I safe to say I was very unhappy at halftime of that game because, I thought I've seen the story before, and what makes it worse is we have a 5-star quarterback and we can't do anything on offense. But thankfully, the boys did get it together kind of in the second half. Now, Florida did take a 10-0 lead in this game, but then there was a run of sorts. The Vols finally put together an offensive drive, scored a touchdown for Dylan Sampson. Touchdown, Gerard McCoy on the next possession for Florida got an interception. We were able to tie it. And then it kind of became a back and forth defensive slop fest until we got a good punt return within the 30-yard line. And we were able to kind of squeeze it down into the end zone and take a 17-10 lead. And it looked like we were going to hold it there, but then DJ Lagway kind of put together a drive after we kind of stalled a bit on offense and had a really but plus our punt return unit, oh my God, they were awful in the fourth quarter. They kept on letting Florida get really good field position because of bad punt coverage. And DJ Lagway on a 3rd and 18 with 30 seconds left hit a bomb to pull within 1, and it looked like they were going to go for 2 in the win. But Billy Napier chickened out, and that was a common theme throughout this game. Billy Napier chickening out and took the extra point, sent it to OT where they missed a field goal, and we were able to go down and score a touchdown to win 23-17 in a game that, I'm just going to say this, like, beating Florida is always awesome. I will never not be happy to beat Florida. But this team still does not look like the top 5-10 team I was hoping they would look like.
I think this game we can say that was more Florida losing than Tennessee winning. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I think it was more like a Florida. The Florida fans were feeling like we could have won this game more than like, Tennessee fans were like, we won this game. It was more like Florida fans disappointed at Billy Napier. Definitely, I think he's not gonna last next season. I think he's gonna get fired by the end of the season. I think his poor decision, especially not going for 2 and because when you're on the road, you have to think about it. You're not gonna be criticized for lack of courage.
Yeah, and even when he did go for a 4th down early in the game, some of the play calling made no sense. Like that 4th and 1 in the first half where they ran a jet sweep to the edge. Like, they were having success running the ball up the middle, and they just didn't do that there. And of course, obviously, Graham Mertz fumbling the ball at the end zone, that's not Billy Napier's fault. I mean, that was just bad execution on the part of Mertz. But oh wow, holy cow! So in the New York Minnesota WNBA game, so Minnesota had to come back to tie it, and then Sabrina Ionesco hit a go-ahead 3 with a second left on a step back from near the logo. So Sabrina Ionescu looking like she just potentially put New York up 2-1. Minnesota to respond. Here with a second left, they're going to throw it in. They're going to get a shot off. And no, that's off. And the New York Liberty are up 2-1 now in the WNBA Finals. So, wow, what a finish there for Sabrina Ionescu and the New York Liberty. Anyway, so back on the Vols. To me, in the Gators here, Bill Napier, some of the 4th down play calling, and the fact is they were in the red zone 5 times in the first half, got 3 total points. And remember, back to the week before, Arkansas also couldn't score in the first half, and they had all those opportunities. So there's a common thread there, and you have to give credit to this Tennessee defense. They never give up. When a drive goes against them, they keep on fighting, and they force a team to fight all the way into the end zone. And that is the sole reason why Tennessee won this game, is because of our defense. This defense, needs to be given some flowers, because without them, we would have lost this game handily. I cannot hear you.
I guess. And Sao Paulo, sorry, I was muted because I was just checking. Sao Paulo scored 3-0. Another beautiful goal by Lucas Moura, former Tottenham player. So back to the Vols Gators game. I feel like the defense is improving every game, and the offense is regressing. So, and we all acknowledge how Josh Heupel was a guru of offense. So I think we can say that maybe he should be at least scrutinized by this regressing of the defense, by the offense.
Well, I think here's who I'm blaming here. Glenn Ellerby, our offensive line coach. I don't understand why our offensive line is this bad. I mean, Lance Hurd, highly touted 5-star. We got him from LSU this offseason. He has been horrific the past couple of weeks. Now he's dealt with an injury, but that's no excuse. I mean, this dude had a PFF grade this week of 38.3. I mean, there were plays where basically he'd get blown up and basically looked like he was given no effort. Now his run blocking is pretty good, but the pass blocking is horrible. It's so bad. John Campbell, too, with multiple holding penalties. He's getting beat. I mean, Nico, he can't do anything if his linemen aren't blocking for him. Now, that being said, like I said in the video, Nico's not hitting downfield. Nico is throwing into double coverage, trying to make something happen. And for a 5-star quarterback, we can't have that happen. For the $8 million investment into Nico Imialava, stuff like that cannot be happening. Otherwise, it's not a good investment because here's the thing. I think about how hard I am on Will Levis, for example, over in Nashville with the Titans. And I feel like up to this point, I've been really forgiving of Nico because I have a lot of excitement for Nico. I'm really hopeful for Nico. But at some point, when it comes to Nico, it's like, okay, training wheels are off. You got to start producing. And especially now that we're playing Florida, playing Alabama, I need to see him producing. And in this game, we won in spite of Nico.
Yeah, I agree. And just before I continue to shout out Erika Barbosa, great singer from Hortolândia. My great friend Alison D'Ameto as well. The YouTube page of Rio Branco as well. And one point that I want to go even broader than Tennessee's, like, so the way you're describing Nico Imialava and how he's not playing well, but the one key thing that you keep saying, and I think it's gonna be a trend in this new reality of college football, is you're gonna be, kind of scrutinizing or even kind of analyzing a college football player not for being a 3-star, a 4-star, a 5-star. It's gonna be how much he costs in terms of NIL money, like NFL players. Like NFL players, the bigger the contract, the more the player is scrutinized.
Yeah, and we've seen redshirt freshmen come in and dominate. Like Johnny Manziel won a Heisman as a redshirt freshman. Jameis Winston came in and won the Heisman as a redshirt freshman. We're seeing Ryan Williams at Alabama as a 17-year-old dominate as a wide receiver. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Just because you're a freshman doesn't mean you can't come out and play well. Now, I didn't expect Nico to come out and play perfect this year, but I expected him to be able to move the football, to be able to make big throws downfield. Now, he was doing that against bad competition. And let's be completely real here for Tennessee, because we're here halfway through the season now at 5-1. None of the teams that we've played, I don't think are very – okay, outside of Arkansas, and arguably can say the one decent to good team that we have played, we lost to. Because Oklahoma, as we are beginning to see, is not good, especially on offense. Now, their defense is pretty good, but they have no offense. I mean, they're probably worse off than we are offensively. NC State, we're complete frauds. They are bottom half of the ACC. You can't really – at this point, it really wasn't even – it was a big game at the time, but now in retrospect, it's a result that doesn't really matter. And, of course, obviously, Kid State and Chattanooga were Kid State and Chattanooga. So when you look at the first 6 games, we really haven't played stout competition outside of Arkansas. And the one stout team that we've played, we lost to. And as you said, the offense seems to be kind of regressing. I mean, we've played 3 SEC games, and the offense hasn't shown up in any of them.
And I think the schedule is going to get tougher now. Of course, Tennessee faces 2 top 10 teams from the SEC, Alabama at home and Georgia on the road. But Kentucky and especially Kentucky, more than Mississippi State, can give Tennessee some trouble. Of course.
And Vanderbilt at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's true. Like, Vandy right now is on a roll. Vandy right now, incredibly, is in 6th place in the SEC.
I mean, how confident, if we had to go to Vanderbilt right now, how confident are you in the Vols going into that game?
It would be kind of like that 2016 game feels like when Vandy beat a very hyped but very disappointing Tennessee team. Hopefully,
You know,
it will be more different. But
eh,
uh, go ahead.
here's a nightmare scenario. What if like we're on the playoff bubble heading into Vandy, and we have to beat Vandy on the road to get into the playoff?
And what if? And as crazy as this gonna sound, Vanderbilt is still on the fight for the playoffs because they only have one SEC loss, like Tennessee.
Right
So
now, if they hadn't lost to Georgia State, I would probably, because I've been doing a weekly bracketology um, update. They probably would be in my playoff field right now if they hadn't lost to Georgia State. Vanderbilt losing to Georgia State makes less and less sense each week. I don't know how they lost that game.
yeah, I mean, of course, this game was on the road, and they kind of blew the game. They gave the game they gave the game away. When especially they were up by 7, and of course they tried to came back and had a terrible third quarter. But Vandy's improving every week. Everybody thought was a fluke. At home beating the number 1 team in the country, but they went to Lexington and beat Kentucky, and of course they still gonna face another number 1 team in the country at home against the Longhorns. But I won't count the Commodores out just yet because
No,
you know
no, go ahead. I was just agreeing with you.
no, yeah, and but I think this next 6 games, of course, UTEP and Mississippi State, I would say is very very winnable games. It's
Yeah, UTEP,
almost
I'm not worried about. UTEP's winless. Now, Mississippi State, to their credit, gave Georgia a little bit of a tough time the other day. They only lost by 10. So if we come out and have no offense against Mississippi State, I mean, I'm not ruling anything out at this point, Although I think we will beat Miss State.
yeah, but I think those next 6 games, Tennessee can only lose one more at tops to think about going to the playoffs. If they lose, I mean, go ahead.
And I was saying, there's a very slight chance that 9-3 team could make it in. However, I don't know if we would beat a 9-3 team because NC State and Oklahoma tanking is going to be held against us if we're in an at-large spot. We got to think about this like college basketball now in terms of resumes, in terms of who you beat, who you lost, how strong were the teams that you beat. And NC State and Oklahoma, frankly, in the grand scheme of things, are just not going to be seen as very strong wins for Tennessee. And that Oklahoma is our strongest win. It's a stronger win than Florida is. And, we lost to Arkansas, which is, in Arkansas, here's the thing. We need to root for Arkansas the rest of the year. We need Arkansas to beat LSU this week and get some other big wins, because if Arkansas is like a really, really good team by the end of the year, a top 15 team, people are like, okay, you lost to a top 20 team on the road. You basically get a pass for that. That's what we need to be rooting for. This is like college basketball now, where like if you lose to a team or even if you beat a team, you want them to do as well as possible the rest of the year to bolster your own resume. And in college football, there's a lot less lee room than in a 12-team playoff than a 68-team playoff, like in college basketball.
Oh yeah, for sure. And of course, there's still the SEC championship, which this year is going to be the 2 best teams in the overall conference, not divisions anymore. Which currently in Texas A&M and Texas. Wow.
Yeah, we losing Arkansas, I think it's made that really, really hard for us to get there, because we're going to have to win out, I think, to make Atlanta. And I think that's going to be a really tall ask. But I will say this, though, that we were close in some of those big plays. If we hit some of those big plays, we have a completely different conversation right now. We're like, oh, yeah, the Tennessee offense starting to look like it's back. So all it takes is just hit. We need to hit one of those. And on the first drive of the game, we were moving well until we had a fumble. And then it looked like our offense was just out of it. So 2 things. One, obviously don't have another bad start to the game like that. Like, last week at Arkansas, we had a holding Tony wipe out a first down, and our offense never really recovered from that. It seems like when something bad happens, our offense can't recover. And that's really concerning because think about when we beat Alabama 2 years ago, and that's we're going to talk way more about the third Saturday. But remember early in that fourth quarter, Hendon Hooker and Jalen Wright had a drop snap, and Dallas Turner picked it up, took it back for a touchdown for Alabama, and they took the lead 49-42. And at that point, it looked like, oh, same old Tennessee. We have just blown a chance to beat Alabama. But our offense got it together the next drive, went down the field, maybe got a little bit of help from refs, scored a game-tying touchdown, and we know what happened from there, leading to a Vols win. So I haven't seen that response yet from this Tennessee offense. When something goes wrong, because something's going to go wrong when you play Alabama. Something's going to go wrong when you play Georgia or Kentucky. I want this offense to come back the next drive, put it behind them, and go win. And I know that Heupel says this all the time at press conference. You got to play every snap independent of every other snap, every possession, independent of every other possession. And I don't think we're seeing that right now from our offense.
I mean, theory sounds great, but you can't take the mind off. It's like in soccer. Like if you miss a great opportunity, you're gonna get more troubled when the next one comes, because sports is about confidence. It's about, the more you get it right, the better you get.
Right. So I guess since we're at the halfway point, let's look at some stats here. So what would you have said if I told you at the halfway point in the year, Nico would have 1,200 passing yards and 7 passing touchdowns? It'd be 81st in QBR. Would you have believed those stats?
Probably I'll be not really. I, of course, would be more optimistic. I think those numbers are disappointing, but he still have 6 more games to improve those numbers.
That's true, and we need him to. And I still look. And I've been hard on Nico in this episode, but I still believe that Nico can be a great quarterback. But we're going to have to see it soon if we're going to do it this season. Run this season. Now, at least the bright spot of this offense is Dylan Sampson. I'll say this: Ashton Genty has been getting all the Heisman hype as a running back, and deservedly so. Ashton Genty is amazing. Dylan Sampson deserves to be in everyone's top 5 or top 10 for Heisman. This dude, Dylan Sampson, has 15 rushing touchdowns halfway through the year. He's on pace to have 30 touchdowns. You realize how ridiculous that is? I mean, Dylan Sampson, and he's been the MVP of this offense. He has scored the last 6 touchdowns for the Tennessee Vols on offense. And I think right now he deserves to be recognized as one of the best players in America, because we would have, I don't know what we would do without Dylan Sampson.
It was a great surprise, definitely overseed expectations, and definitely making the run game, which was something average a few years ago, very now important to the Tennessee offense.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's why I'm not giving up on the team. Because a lot of people say, oh, Tennessee's not a playoff contender. We have the run game. We have the defense. If we can just hit some of these deep shots. And it's also, a little bit on the receivers, right? Like Chaz Nimrod dropped a lot of balls. We have some, Brew McCoy and Squirrel White are kind of nicked up. They're not 100%, but Squirrel White's kind of dropped some here and there too. Chris Brazell, I kind of impressed me the other night. I think we need to get him more targets. We need to get Thornton. I had a big touchdown against Oklahoma, more targets. And more importantly, I want to see 5-star Mike Matthews on the field. This guy is a true freshman. And as we've seen at Alabama and Ohio State, those 2 places have 5-star receivers, and Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, and they're lighting it up. Yeah, you can't tell me, we need a spark in the receiver room. Get the 5-star on the field. Let me see what he can do. Also, I want to see more production for the tight ends, because they looked awesome against NC State, and I feel like we really haven't seen much of them since. So I want to see more tight ends in this game.
Oh yeah, that's something I feel like Josh Heupel needs to work on and kind of get it in rhythm.
Right. But I will say this, I do have to give the team this. Despite things not going well, they haven't given up, right? They're fighting at every single snap, and they're fighting hard. They fought through a lot of adversity to win this game, in a game that I'm sure all of them know how little Tennessee has beaten Florida. and they kept on fighting, and that's all I can ask for as a fan, right? And it was a great atmosphere on TV, and it was great, just great to get that win. And winning against Florida is something that you can never take for granted. I mean, they're the third time I've ever seen us beat Florida.
It's a rivalry game. Doesn't matter if you know. Doesn't matter how you get the win. It's winning your rival. That's what matters.
Exactly. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And we live to fight another day, basically, is what the winning that game means in terms of winning. So definitely Vols 23, Florida 17. And Billy Napier, I agree with you. He's done. I mean, he squandered that game so bad for the Florida Gators. But I'll say this, DJ Lagway is going to be a problem. I hope if he's fired that DJ Lagway decides to transfer so we don't have to play him anymore. I would, because that guy's going to be really fun. I hope he's fun somewhere else, because if he stays in Florida, that guy's going to be a problem. But in any case, I do want to talk about the third Saturday in October a little bit later in the show when we get into game picks. Some other at the big games from last week, Oregon. The Oregon Ducks hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes in a new Big Ten rivalry. And that game did not disappoint. I mean, this game might have been better than Alabama, Georgia. And man, I mean, these two were going back and forth, back and forth. The Oregon Ducks survived 32-31. I think this one is absolutely huge for Dan Lanning. But at the same time, I do think there is some overreaction to Ryan Day in this game, because there's some Ohio State fans saying, oh, there we go. Ryan Day can't win the big one once again. But I want to remind Ohio State fans, we live in a 12-team playoff now. Ohio State's going to be a big favorite in every game they have left, except maybe Penn State. Ohio State's going to be fine. I mean, you went to Oregon and played pretty well. Like Ohio State played well in this game. Oregon played well too, and someone had to win, and Oregon won by a point. Like I feel like if you're Ohio State, you can't be that upset with this game. So, yeah, I think people calling for Ryan Day's head over this is nuts. And of course, the game that really is going to define him is Michigan, because Michigan's not good. Like Ohio State should win that game by a big margin later this season. And I know they have Penn State later in the year, but I think people calling for Ryan Day's head are kind of ridiculous. I think they've always been kind of ridiculous. I mean, this dude's like 60-10. I mean, that record is nuts. And you shouldn't take that for granted, I think, if you're the Ohio State Buckeyes. And for Oregon, I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule, they're going to be favorites in every game they play. Now, I will throw a word of caution to Oregon. They go to Purdue on Friday night, and that's a scary spot for the Ducks, because they're a 27-point favorite, but the Purdue Boilermakers are notorious for pulling off upsets. And going across the country on a Friday is terrifying if you're Oregon. So I'll be curious to see what the Ducks do in that game. If they can kind of get over beating Ohio State and turn around and go across the country to play Purdue.
This game reminds me a lot of the Vandy Alabama game, because Alabama hosted a big rival, top 5 matchup, had very emotional game, very tough game, and then the next game fell apart to an unranked conference foe on the road. Doesn't this feel kind of the same?
Yeah, Vandy, though, has been playing a lot better throughout the year. Now, Purdue, to their credit, did take Illinois to overtime on the road, and Illinois is a ranked team. So Purdue's been played better last week. I believe it was week 3. They lost to Notre Dame 66-7, and they were just horrible. But Purdue's playing better now. So, I say there is a chance. I might take a lead. At the very least, I might bet Purdue to cover. They're a 27-point underdog. I could see them keeping it closer than that.
It's crazy. Tickets are going for $10. I mean, the number.
That's what happens when you're 1-5 at a basketball school.
But still, it's the number 2 team in the country. It's I know it's the new Big Ten matchup, but yeah. So, but I think if I'm a Boilermakers fan, I would definitely go. I mean, anything can happen. I remember back, I think it was 2018. Number 2 Ohio State came to West Lafayette and was beat badly.
Right. Now, I will say this. I hope Oregon blows them out 100-0. I will never root for Purdue in anything. But, that's neither here or there. I just hate Purdue with a burning passion.
Yeah, I guess because of very heated basketball and football matchups between Tennessee and Purdue. I was right. It was October 20th, 2018. The number 3 team in the country, Ohio State, went to West Lafayette and lost 49-20.
Yeah, and you remember Purdue a couple years ago, they went to Iowa and beat them when they were number 2 in the country. I think that was 2021. They also beat Michigan State one year when they were number 4. So they're notorious for doing that. Now, Purdue had much better teams at that point because remember they had Brian Brom as head coach, who now is doing decently well at Louisville. So, in any case, watch out, Oregon. Ohio State will be fine. Don't fire Ryan Day over this loss. You would be really stupid for doing so. And I think that's one thing too. We were talking about like how we evaluating players is different now. I think the way we need to evaluate coaches is a little bit different. Like calling guys to get fired over one loss is crazy, and a modern 12-team playoff.
Yeah, but I get the point. I get the point, probably from Ohio State fans, because they're seeing that this team has huge potential, but they never achieve when it matters. And when you are a Buckeyes coach, that's when you have to be their best.
Very true. Well, as you said, he better beat Michigan, or otherwise, I might take more credence to some of those calls.
Yeah, if Ohio State loses to Michigan this year, then he's definitely gonna get fired.
So imagine if they go and win the Natty, and then he just gets fired again because he lost to Michigan.
No. But if Ohio State lose to Michigan, probably I guess Michigan now is not ranked.
No, they're not ranked. I mean, they're not good. They're like 24.
Yeah, they're 24. Yeah, they're 24, but more close to being unranked. But yeah, so if they lose to like a 24, 25 with an unranked Michigan team, I think their chances of making the playoff is very slim.
Yeah, well, it'll depend on everywhere else. And also, I think, they would have to beat Penn State, too. Because they do go to Penn State. Although I don't trust Penn State. Let me bring up Penn State real quick. They had to come back on the road against an unranked USC team, which, by the way, remember when I said the USC was going to go 4-8 in the offseason? Well, I don't think they're going to get quite to 4-8, but things are not going well for Lincoln Riley in the Big Ten. What I was scared would happen to the Trojans is happening. They just weren't ready along the lines of scrimmage, and it feels like they're getting pushed around every game in Big Ten play, including this one. Now, granted, they took them to overtime, but USC weirdly decided to sit on it at the end of this game. It was 30-30, and USC got the ball back with 2 minutes left, and instead of trying to aggressively push the ball downfield and try to score a game winner, they just sat on it and took it to overtime. And ended up losing in overtime. It was a super weird decision-making by Lincoln Riley. For the 4th highest paid coach in the country, the results are not good right now at USC. It's not a team that's ready to compete at all.
Yeah, I guess they never recovered from missing the playoffs. I believe it was 2022 when they
Yeah, they had a chance against Utah with Caleb Williams in his Heisman year, and they lost badly to them in Vegas, and they just never did recover.
Yeah, they seem. Yeah, it was 20. I think it was 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because we lost to South Carolina that year. That opened up the opportunity for USC, and then they absolutely fumbled their chance, and that's how Ohio State got in to play Georgia.
Yeah, they feel like the Lincoln Riley and the Trojans never recovered from that game, and unfortunately, he even got unlucky because when he went to USC, he went to a Pac-12 team, which was more offense conference. But now he's in the Big Ten. He's struggling badly now because of tougher defenses.
Oh, absolutely. And this is why I picked USC to be bad in the offseason, just because I did not believe in his system translating to the Big Ten. And So far, it hasn't. And Miller Moss is not an elite quarterback. And for Lincoln Riley, think about all the elite quarterbacks that carry him in Oklahoma: Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. He doesn't have that right now at all at USC. And on the other side, this Penn State, I know Penn State's number 3 in the country right now, number 4, one of those two. I don't think they're a top 5 team. I am not sold on Penn State as a championship contender. They've looked sloppy against Illinois, now USC. I think James Franklin continues to make really weird coaching decisions throughout these games. And I know they're undefeated, so you have to keep on rewarding them for being undefeated. But I just don't believe in them long term. Now, I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't take them seriously as an actual threat to win the entire thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like they're not quite ready yet, probably.
Yeah, but hey, they are undefeated and they keep on winning. Next up, they're off this week, but they go to Wisconsin next week. That could be a tricky spot for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Back to the SEC. Go ahead.
But back, just finish up Penn State. How much James Franklin, like Ryan Day, are pressure to make the playoffs? Even more so because Penn State fans always felt they were close, but always stumbles in Ohio State and Michigan. But now, even losing, like for example, to Ohio State, Penn State will get in. How much pressure James Franklin is to make the playoffs?
Oh, very, because they literally would have been in the 12-team playoff literally every single year over the past 5 years. So for Penn State, now that you actually can make it into a 12-team playoff, they must make it into a 12-team playoff. I mean, there's no excuse, especially when you look at their schedule. I mean, they got Ohio State, but the rest of their schedule is Wisconsin, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. They're going to be heavy favorites in the other 5 games. So if you're Penn State, you have to take advantage of this. Even if I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State, which I would tell you right now, I don't think they're beating Ohio State. But at least that'll be a crazy atmosphere, though, in State College when that game comes. Back to the SEC, though. And talking about a season that's probably over, shout out our good friend Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, taking their second loss in mid-October to LSU in the Magnolia Bowl. A wild game. I must say this. I think it's kind of weird that LSU rushed the field for this game. 29-26. I know it's a rivalry game, but LSU, you just won a natty 5 years ago. And Ole Miss has not won. The last time Ole Miss won a natty, there wasn't color TV yet.
Yeah, and how much Ole Miss can be called a fraud?
Very much. I mean, they bought their entire roster to make the playoff, and now they're basically in a position where they're going to have to win out. And I just don't think they're going to, because I don't think that team is really a team. I just don't feel like the cohesion is there because they're a team full of mercenaries. And Lane Kiffin, his biggest flaw is I just don't think he's a good leader of men.
Yeah, still thinking it's 18, but how much chances they have? I mean, I would say I think Texas A&M have a better chance than Ole Miss.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, A&M has the one loss, a much more manageable schedule. I mean, Ole Miss still has to host Georgia, so that's going to be just a really difficult situation. Now, Ole Miss holds Oklahoma next week, who I think they'll beat. But from there, you got to go to Arkansas. We know how hard that is. You get Georgia at home, at Florida, which, I mean, Florida, it seems like they're playing at least somewhat better. So, I mean, none of this is easy for Ole Miss. I mean, they're going to have to win out. And I just don't trust them. I don't think Jackson Dart is particularly a great quarterback. I don't know. Did you see where in the post game he did the cloak thing? Like, he looked like Anakin Scott. Hold on. Let me pull this up because this was hilarious. Because he tried to pull off this, we're not going to lose another game the rest of the year shtick because here, I'm just going to show you Yeah, I'm not even going to like. Let's see here. So here, I'm gonna restart that. Anyway, so I'm gonna pull this up real quick. So just look at that real quick because this is hilarious.
Got to win out. So it's another option.
I'm sorry if my quarterback came out to a press conference looking like that after a big rivalry loss, I would be irate. Like if Nico had pulled this the past 2 weeks, I would be furious because I'm like, you're supposed to be the leader of the football team. Why are you looking down, looking sullen, not looking at the camera, being like, yeah, well, we gotta win. We just gotta win. I just it just doesn't rub me the right way, and it shows me that that team doesn't really have a collection of leaders. Like if you look at the Balls, after they lost to Arkansas, they came out and they took responsibility and
But
they were able to come back and win.
first of all, I want to say this as somebody that works in a PR on a sports team and do practice conference kind of routinely. One thing I had to say, I think it's very unprofessional to an athlete or a coach going to a press conference not wearing like respect like their sports team gear, like the T-shirt or shirt or a cap or anything that kind of you know. Uh, 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 I mean, wearing a black hoodie. I'm not calling out the attitude. It can be said. Wear a hoodie from Ole Miss. Like I think it's unacceptable when an athlete, like a player or a coach, go to a press conference, especially after the game, without any like gear from the team. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think a player or a coach should be wearing the team's gear because they're still on playing mode. They're still kind of they're not at their home. They're not, hanging out. They're still representing the team, not on the field, but in the podium.
Right, and especially now they're getting paid NIL money. This is a job. Like you should be showing up. Like I wouldn't do that on TV. I tell you that even when I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to show up and just like throw up the hoodie and be like, I don't really want to be here. I don't want to do another report,
No,
but I'm still Nick Hill News 12. Like yeah, I'm not
for
going to do
for
that.
for me the problem wasn't the hoodie, but was not wearing any like wear a hoodie from Ole Miss. Like there were gotta be like uh any like jacket or anything from Ole Miss. My point is because if you look at it again, do you still have the clip? Like you don't have to play. I just want to analyze it again.
Yeah, hold on, I'm going to have to pull it back up. But let's see. Yeah, but it just didn't make any sense. Let's see.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But look,
Yeah. So yeah, but it just doesn't sit well with me at all because it feels like it's a classic Lane Kiffin.
look.
Uh,
Does this look like a press conference? Look
no,
the No, it doesn't. There's nothing says this was Ole Miss. Or maybe a little bit on the side. I guess it didn't saw it first, but the background, anything, nothing says this was Ole Miss. It could have been Ole Miss, could have been Jacksonville State. You know,
yeah, like there's literally nothing there. And Ole Miss right now, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you got to ask how much are these players really in the tank for Ole Miss, or are they just
yeah,
there because they're getting paid? Like when you watch the Vols, it feels like, and yes, I know obviously a lot of them are getting paid, but like it feels like they're bought into the idea of Tennessee. I don't see that with Ole Miss at all. I don't even think Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss. Like Lane Kiffin, after losing to Kentucky, was out, retweeting troll accounts about him being interested in Florida. Like if you're Lane Kiffin, why are you even throwing that into the universe, even if you're just joking about going to Florida? Because that's likely now going to be an option for you since you're not going to be in the playoffs. And it's the exact reason why he's never won a championship because he's more focused on being a clown than being a coach.
that's why when he won championships was more a good influence of Nick Saban and less so probably of his own doing. Of course, he's a great college football coach and coordinator, but how much he has the maturity to be a high profile coach.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to say this, Gus, but your Mets just gave up a free run bomb to Shohei Ohtani.
Whoa. Oh, that was close. That
Yeah.
was close to the
His
foul
second
ball.
homer of the postseason. So, yeah, unless a miracle happens, the Dodgers should be winning game 2 here to go up 2-1. But back on this Ole Miss LSU game, because on the other side for LSU, they only have one loss. So that one loss is to USC, who that one loss is looking worse and worse every single week. But LSU has no conference losses. They control their own destiny. And the game, I believe it's a week after next. Texas A&M or LSU at Texas A&M. That game is going to be massive. Both teams, because neither team has a conference loss right now. And whoever wins that game is going to very much have a realistic shot at making the playoff.
Yeah, I think for Brian Kelly now, it's very realistic to uh, go to the SEC championship. Of course, the state of Texas was holding them back in terms of being the top of the SEC because the Longhorns and the Aggies are on top because they have a better overall resume. But I think the Tigers are still in the fight, and definitely, you know, maybe the LSU fans overreact because in the past few years, they completely fell apart from the 2019 championship team that probably that made their confidence down, and now they're getting backed up.
Absolutely. And also Garrett Nussmeier is also a baller quarterback. Now he's not Jaden Daniels, but he's really good. So LSU is a legitimately good football team. So huge win for them. Huge win in the Magnolia Bowl. Kind of like Tennessee, though, in the SEC. Alabama, wow, they really tried to give South Carolina this game on Saturday of an onside kick, back clock management, but they were able to survive. And, man, Bama looks as vulnerable as they've ever looked. Yeah, since before Saban.
Yeah, I think Kellen DeBoer is struggling more so than fans would think of. Definitely, like I said, was more a Florida loss than a Tennessee win. Same for Bama. Was more a South Carolina losing than Bama winning.
Yeah, just because Carolina couldn't hit some wide open receivers. I mean, just really kind of fell apart there. But yeah, like if Alabama's the Bernard number 5 for Alabama, if he falls down with 2 minutes left, the game's over. But he went and scored the touchdown and set up an entirely chaotic ending. But hey, Bama won, and they keep on living and set up a huge game this Saturday, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Some other quick reactions I just wanted to point out here. Perhaps one of the most disappointing teams in the country this year is the Utah Utes. I think a lot of people had them winning the Big 12, but they lost to Arizona State the other night, and now they're sitting on 2 losses. Cam Rising finally came back, but he looks terrible. I'm going to be honest here. I think for Kyle Whittingham, it's a really bad look because you really have to question, right? Let's think back to 2022. Remember, Utah was ranked 7th in the country preseason, and they went to Florida against a mediocre Florida team and lost. And they were never really taken seriously in the national title discussion that year because of that loss to Florida in week 1.
Yeah, it's very tricky.
Yeah, I just think that for Kyle Whittingham, I think this is further proof that Utah will never be a serious national title contender, even in the Big 12. It's just not. You just can't be losing to games like this if you really want to win on a big level. So just a really bad loss for Utah. Additionally, obviously, Texas blew out Oklahoma. And one of the most boring Red River rivalries I've ever seen. Maybe the most boring Red River rivalry I've ever seen. Really didn't pay attention to that one after the first quarter. Oklahoma, I think partially as injuries. I don't think it's completely a coach's thing. They have no receivers right now, and you're not going to win without a receiving core. So just a really, really bad loss for Oklahoma. Also, BYU is a team everyone needs to start paying attention to. I think BYU is, one, a serious threat to win the Big 12, and two, they could make some noise when they get there. BYU blew out Arizona the other day, 41-19. They've put together some really good wins. They went on the road to SMU. They blew out Kansas State. They blew out Arizona, and they're 6-0 right now. And BYU plays Utah in, I believe, 3 weeks, and what's going to be their reigniting of the Holy War. If they can get through that game, which right now I would take BYU to win that game, BYU is going to be right there for the Big 12 title and a playoff berth.
Yeah, but and it's funny now they don't have like an elite talent like when they had former Jets quarterback Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but I mean, there's Retzloff that they have now. He's pretty good at quarterback. Also, as you mentioned earlier, Vandy winning, huge win. But on the flip side, though, how bad is this for Mark Stoops? Mark Stoops now has 0-3 at home this year at SEC home games. And I believe he's won one SEC home game now in 2 years. I think for Kentucky, man, you really have to step back and look at yourself in the mirror and ask, can we do any better than Mark Stoops? Because maybe that answer is yes, and maybe they should go after someone that's younger and more exciting.
Yeah, definitely Mark Stoops sometimes was a distractor, especially off the field. And I think it's disappointing because because Kentucky right now is more like, oh, we gave a hard time to Georgia kind of, title, but that doesn't matter. They still lost, and they keep losing this SEC home games.
Yeah, so just really bad loss for Kentucky. I don't know where their program really is going to go. All right, let's talk about some games coming up this week. I kind of alluded to an episode alert. I think Oregon-Purdue is a really dangerous game. Now, I think Oregon will ultimately win that game, but man, that's a scary place for Oregon. Well, what other games do we think set up for upset alert?
My upset alert is UCF going to Ames, Iowa, and beating the Iowa State Cyclones.
That would be shocking. UCF is falling apart. They have 3 straight losses. Lost to Cincinnati last week at home. They benched their starting quarterback too in KJ Jefferson. So that would be hard to believe. But man, if they went to Ames, Iowa, and beat Iowa State, that would be devastating for the Cyclones, because the Cyclones are another team too. They're undefeated right now. We've got a really good win at West Virginia, that are firmly in control of their own destiny to make the playoff. I think another game to watch, I think LSU at Arkansas, a game that could be on the upset watch list. And I'm rooting for Arkansas to pull that upset off, because that would be huge. Also, Notre Dame at Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We saw Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois early in the year. And Notre Dame, they've quietly rolled off 4 straight wins since losing to Northern Illinois. And do you know who the 2 ranked opponents are on Notre Dame's schedule left?
Navy and Army. Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. And of course, as we said, that G5er is going to keep on watching. Navy, Army, and Boise State. I think one of those 3 teams will be your G5 representative. Yeah, and what's nuts is Navy and Army could play 2 straight weeks in a row. So that would be absolutely insane. And think about it, Navy and Army both get Notre Dame. So if they both beat Notre Dame, then almost guaranteed whoever wins Army-Navy would be in the playoff, because they would have to play twice. So it would be just unreal.
But isn't the second Navy and Army game after the decision made by the committee?
Correct. So only the first game would really count for that. So I don't know how they would handle that situation.
Yeah, that's a tricky situation. Are they like uh like make this into like whoever wins this game gets the G5 spot. So you basically turn into a pre-playoff kind of game, like pre. It's like a playoff game, but not inside the playoff.
That's what I would do. Now I don't know if they would do that, but I think that's the only way this makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely. So now, time for best bet of the week. For me, I think I'm going to go with an under here. South Carolina and Oklahoma are going to both struggle to score against each other. This is going to be an ugly, awful game. So do yourself a favor, take under 41.5 total points in Norman.
For me, is Missouri Auburn under as well. I don't think both of them are doing good right now. I think I'll be total 44.
Yeah, because I've got total 51.5. So I really like that one too. Now let's pick some games here. LSU at Arkansas.
Give me the Tigers.
I'm going to go Tigers too. I think it'll be a close battle for the Golden Boot. Always seems to be chaotic. I'm really hoping the Hogs get it though, because that would help Tennessee. At noon on Saturday, ABC, we got the Miami Hurricanes off a bye week going to the Louisville Cardinals.
Very tricky game, but give me Hurricanes.
I'm going to go with the upset here. Miami has not won off a bye week in years. And again, I don't trust Mario Cristobal's coaching. I think Louisville gets it done at home. Now, this is an interesting one. The big noon game on Fox. 5-1 Nebraska traveling to undefeated Indiana. Who gets this one?
I think it's going to be one of the biggest wins in Matt Rule tenure in Nebraska. Give me the Cornhuskies.
I agree. This is a Dylan Raiola coming out party. I don't think Indiana really has played anyone good yet. Give me Nebraska. The only ranked Big Ten matchup of the week, Michigan at Illinois.
Give me the Wolverines.
I'm going to go Illinois at home. I just think Michigan just doesn't have any offense, and I think Illinois will find a way to get it done in Champaign. Now, let's go in these two SEC games. We'll start off with the game that just involve our team. Georgia at Texas, which is the game of the week, top 5 matchup. For me, I think the storyline in this game is Texas proving they are ready for the spot to assume control as the national title favorite, as the SEC title favorite, and they are ready to compete week in, week out with the SEC.
Oh my God, what a game. I mean, first of all, how SEC has been big with those, matchups. Like we had Alabama, Georgia, now Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. But for this one, give me the Longhorns.
I'm going to go Longhorns too. I think Georgia's defense is what's really scaring me right now for Georgia. I mean, they got torched by Mississippi State the other day, and I don't know if their offense is still really that consistent. And going on the road to a Texas team that seems to be firing on all cylinders right now, I don't think this is a good spot for Georgia. Now, this would be huge for Kirby Smart because if Georgia loses this game, this would be their second loss, and Georgia would virtually be in a win. You would have your back against the wall. That would put them basically in a couple of weeks at Ole Miss. Both of those teams would likely have 2 losses. So, man, that's a tough position to be in if you're the Georgia Bulldogs. They really need to find a way to win this one, but I just think Texas is better. Give me the Horns. And it's time. Let's get into it here. All you have to say in these parts to know what game I'm talking about is the 3rd Saturday in October. And that brings so many emotions. Of course, for most of my life, it signaled a beatdown, right? I mean, up until 2 years ago, we had lost 15 straight from 2007 to 2021. But 2022 came around. We won 52-49. It led to a legendary Phil Storm and probably one of my favorite single wins in sports ever. Of course, last year, Bama took it back to us, got a win down in Tuscaloosa. But now we are here, 2024. Let me ask you this. Do you think this matchup could be bigger than the one 2 years ago, given the playoff stakes that are on the line?
But last year, both of them were kind of fighting for a playoff, and was only a 14 playoff. So I think the one 2 years ago is a slightly bigger, and there was the drought factor, the 15 losses in a row for Tennessee. But this still is a big rivalry game. For me, the most remarkable one was 2019 when I went down to Tuscaloosa, third Saturday in October. Of course, Jared Garantano meltdown cost the game. And for this one, give me Tennessee.
Man, I'll never forget him trying to jump over the goal line. I'll never will understand what he was thinking on that play. And I just remember being so furious. Like, I threw my dang flip folder, threw the music on the ground so hard in my life. I thought I had broken a damn thing. Yeah. It was not a fun time. I was about to get in a fight with some Alabama fans that day. But for me, I think the keys to this game, to me, it's going to come to Nico. I think this is a strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness. I think Bama's offense is a strength of their team right now with Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams. The running backs, I don't think are great. They're serviceable, but Milroe can be special when he's on. Ryan Williams is special every week, it seems like. So you're going to have to find a way to contain them, especially given that, unfortunately, we've lost our main linebacker in Keenan Pili, which is a massive loss. He was basically our quarterback for the defense. So now either Jeremiah Thielander or Arian Carter will be the quarterback of the defense or linebackers. And those two have played really well so far, but they're not experienced like Keenan Pili is. So I think that's going to hurt us just a little bit. One of those two will likely have to be a quarterback spy throughout this game to keep him contained. And I probably would put Jamar McCoy on Ryan Williams. McCoy has proven himself to be really, really good. Williams will be his biggest test yet. Obviously, I know the front seven that we have, front seven is still really, really good. James Pierce, he made some huge plays on Saturday that helped us win that football game. James Pierce will likely have to do it again. And as by the way, I did see Pierce was projected to be number 5 overall to the Titans in next year's draft. So that's just a sidebar. But on Saturday, he's going to have to make some more big plays for us to win this football game. I think he's the best player on the team. Now, on the offense, obviously, Dylan Sampson, you're going to have to feed him, and they're going to feed him. But can we get some pass protection? Can we get some deep shots to hit? Bama's secondary has been very suspect. Vandy and Carolina both exposed them. I think you should be able to run on them. But it all comes down to that line. And Lance Hurd, please, Lance, I need you to do better in pass blocking. John Campbell Jr., I need you to do better in pass blocking. If y'all can elevate, then that's only going to help Nico settle in and get some passes. I think we need to get some quick passes early. We need to get Nico in a rhythm. And honestly, too, I know we've been trying to protect him to avoid an injury because I know we're scared of injury. At this point, training wheels are off. It's Alabama. We have to run Nico some. And I know that puts him at risk, but it is what it is at this point. We've got to get his legs. Because Nico can run the football. If we're going to struggle passing, I want to at least give Nico a chance to win with his legs. And I'm tired of us watching us not try to win with our legs. And for Nico himself, when it comes to the pocket, if it starts to collapse, please run. Don't sit there and don't make a decision. That was making me so mad on Saturday, the past couple of weeks, where he would just sit there and then take the sack or fumble. Please make a decision. If you make a turnover, so be it. Just please make a decision. So, and also try to get Bama till. I think if you look at the last 2 games as well, 2 years ago in Knoxville, Alabama had 17 penalties called against them, which directly led to the outcome of that game. And last year, Bama had no penalties at all called on them, which led directly to the outcome of that game. Who do the refs fall on here in this game? Is it called evenly? Does one team get get more calls than the other? I think that could factor into this as well. I really don't know how this thing is going to go. I'm going to be honest. From an objective standpoint, I think you have to look at this as a quarterback versus quarterback deal. And right now, I'm probably, from an objective standpoint, I probably would take Bama to barely eke this one out. But if Nico can hit some of those, it's going to be a very good night in Knoxville. And I actually might be in Knoxville, and not necessarily at the game itself, but I might just go up there just to be in the city with some other folks to watch it. And if we win, it'll be a great night. So that's just the way I feel on it from an objective standpoint. But I would say this is pretty much a toss-up. I think our team can win this. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. And I'll just be saying this. I'm just glad we are at a point now where games of Alabama are coin tosses, and we know we have a shot to win the football game. Doesn't mean we are, but we know we have a shot to win it. And that's all I can ask.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is going to come out and play strong. Give me the Vols.
Absolutely. Let's score in the first half this week. One thing I just want to score in the first half. I don't want to be scoreless again at halftime. So that would be nice. But anyway, third Saturday in October, going to be massive, going to be huge. We'll either be here next week I'll be either on here talking about, buying tickets for the playoffs next week or talking about next year in basketball about this time next week. So anyway.
Just a quick update. Dodgers with the Max Muncy home run extend the lead for 8-0 against the New York Mets.
Wow, man, all those fans left the ballpark. Come on, guys, the game isn't over yet. Get back in there. But, yeah. Well, there's always tomorrow for the New York Mets. So, anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. But let's do some NFL real quick. And I think the biggest story right now in the NFL is all the trades. We've seen Devontae Adams traded to the Jets from the Raiders. We've seen Amari Cooper trade to the Bills from the Browns, among other big trades. Tell me, what trade do you think right now is the biggest that we've seen this week?
Of course, you describe both of the most impactful trades. One, because Aaron Rodgers now, it feels like the Jets are Aaron Rodgers' frat house, and Robert Saleh was kind of like the dad of the frat house and the most popular kid in the frat house. Kick him off, so Aaron Rodgers not running the show. Woody Johnson is just the guy giving the money to the frat house because Aaron Rodgers now has his offensive coordinator buddy and a lot of players who he feels comfortable playing with.
Yeah, I mean, basically he's LeBron, even though he's only won one Super Bowl and is known for being controversial and kind of toxic. I just don't understand this from the Jets at all. Why they're going all in with a 40-year-old quarterback who is, I mean, and granted, on Monday, he made some throws that looked like old Rodgers. Like, he looked the most old Rodgers I've seen him in a very long time. But that doesn't mean I can expect him to look like that every single week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be glimpses of talent, not consistency.
Yeah, so I don't know how much this truly helps New York Jets. But, I mean, they were very good. Competitive at Buffalo the other night. They still have a long way to go in the season. So, and plus that does, trying to cover both Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams is going to be really hard for opposing defenses and Breece Hall. Like, there's no excuse now that the Jets should be making a run at the playoffs with that roster.
Yeah, in theory, but they think they need to keep consistent, or otherwise it's going to be another failure.
Yeah. It's championship or bust at this point for the New York Jets. But I think more importantly, I think Amari Cooper is going to be massive for Josh Allen because Josh Allen was lacking a wide receiver one, but he has one now in Cooper. And this is huge for Cooper because imagine Amari Cooper right now. He is getting out of just a cesspool in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, who may or may not go to jail at some point for his actions. Now he gets to play with Josh Allen. I mean, it's just huge for him.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I mean, these are just, and obviously Cam Akers going to the Vikings, another big trade. But I mean, obviously those two receiver trades are the two really big ones that we have seen so far. Now, with that being said, of course, there's games still being played. And I think the result of the week that's reverberating around the league is the Detroit Lions absolutely smashing the Dallas Cowboys 47-9. I mean, this thing was, I don't know if I've ever seen Dallas this humiliated ever by Detroit of all teams. And I don't know, did you
But
see that video? Go ahead.
it felt like a game. Like remember last year?
Oh yeah, because we were in Florida at your parents' house. By the way, I'm glad they made it through Hurricane Milton all right, and I'm impressed that house suffered little to no damage at all. So shout out to whoever built that house. But yeah, but you said remember the Lions really got kind of robbed in that game because of the officials, and it was just really weird how that game went down. So the Lions definitely made this personal. And did you see the video of Jerry Jones and the Cowboys walking back to the locker room in complete silence after the game?
Yeah, it's all now. Jerry Jones has to realize either he's the owner who wins championships, or he's the owner slash GM slash indirect coach and keeps being humiliated.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones, he's in his 80s. Like, he needs to sit back and realize you don't have any more seasons to enjoy your life, to enjoy having the Dallas Cowboys. Why not bring in someone who can help you win one more championship in your life? You know? Like, you're not guaranteed. I mean, none of us are guaranteed any day, right? But for Jerry Jones, like, like the time you have a clock. And hopefully he still gets to be with us another 10, 20 years. But the Cowboys, I just don't understand how you don't have a GM and you continue to really just get into these awful situations. So,
yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and then obviously they threw all that money at Dak Prescott just for him to go 17-33 for 178 and 2 interceptions. $260 million.
Yeah, it's insane how they blew it.
Right. And also they have no running backs. The running back situation is just horrible. They brought back Ezekiel Elliott for some reason. I just don't understand it. Now the Detroit Lions did lose Aiden Hutchinson in this game, which is the big loss for them. And that's going to hurt them down the road because he is one of the best young pass rushers in the league. So I'll be curious to see how they patch that up the rest of the year. I saw a friend suggest that they should trade Hendon Hooker to the Raiders for Max Crosby, which would be an interesting deal. Because I think if you're Detroit, you need to probably go out and trade for another pass rusher. Because if you're the Lions, you got to sit back and realize we have a shot to win right now. So if you can replace a key missing piece because of injury, you should. Because now is the time to go all in. Forget the future. You got to win now.
Yeah, it's a win or go home kind of.
Right. So I'll be curious to see how they handle that pass rushing situation from Aiden Wilson. Now, also, of course, Will Levis lost another game to the Indianapolis Colts. So a loss to a division rival. We're now 1-4 on the year. And man, Levis did not throw for 100 yards against what is the worst pass defense in the NFL. The Colts were ranked 32nd. And Levis couldn't do a thing. Could not do a thing. And that led to, so here are the results, guys. 16 of 27, 95 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That interception came late in the fourth quarter. Calvin Ridley had no catches, and Calvin Ridley went off in the postgame and said, "They're not effing getting me the ball. What am I supposed to do?" I mean, it's a dumpster fire in Nashville.
Yeah, when your quarterback is not showing glimpses of being a steady, confident quarterback, things do tend to fall apart.
Yeah, just unfortunately, like we knew it was a bad pick when it happened, and all of our worst fears are being realized. And frankly, Rand Carthon should be fired because he is the one who picked Will Levis over Hinton Hooker, and and we all knew it was a bad idea. Every last one of us knew that pick was going to suck, except for Rand Carthon. Apparently, he was like, "Nope, I'm picking Will Levis because I think he's going to be I think he's going to be the next Josh Allen." No, no. So, yeah. And frankly, this one I just want Amy Strunk to sell the damn team. To sell the team to someone who will bring in more competent people. And maybe the Tennessee Titans will actually be good again and can win a championship because this team is horrible. They're not fun to watch. They're even worse to watch now than under Vrabel, which at least Vrabel's last 2 years, and it's just crazy how bad it went from middle of the 2022 season when they were 8-3 to where they are right now. They're 7-22 since winning at Green Bay on a Thursday night football game in the middle of 2022. I mean, that's just pitiful.
Oh yeah, I think, but it was expected, right, Nick? Everybody, like we all predicted that the Titans would have been last place in the AFC South. It's not a surprise.
Right. Like, I'm not surprised they're losing. It's the way they're losing that's not good. That Will Levis isn't showing any improvement. He's regressing every single week. That's what's bad. Like, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose and not improve. Like the Vols, for example, right? The offense, I wouldn't say necessarily improved from week to week, but they were able to string together enough plays to win. And there's a difference in that, right? So, yeah, just things are not good for the Titans right now. Also, probably what I thought was the most interesting game of the weekend, the Ravens outlasted Washington, but this was a great duel between Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. And the fact that those two quarterbacks are only 30 miles apart is insane. That the state of Maryland is going to be blessed with great quarterback play for years to come.
Totally, and it was a really great matchup.
Absolutely. Now, let's pick some of next week's games here, starting tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football with the Sean Payton Bowl, because Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos are heading down to the New Orleans Saints, who have a lot of injuries right now. The Saints have really cooled off since their hot start. Who do we think won here?
Give me the Saints.
I'm going to go Broncos. The Saints they're very injured. Things are not going well. Broncos have a good defense too, and Bo Nix is improving week to week. I like Denver. And Sean Payton gets his revenge, I guess. Well, I wouldn't say revenge, but he reminds New Orleans, I made you, and you're nothing without me. Because New Orleans in their franchise history has never done anything when Sean Payton wasn't their head coach. So I think that's the way that'll go. Now, the poor folks in England. England should be allowed to close our embassy over this matchup. We're giving them the 1-5 New England Patriots versus the 1-5 London Jaguars. I mean, the 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars in the Tottenham Stadium.
Actually, going to be at Wembley Stadium. The game's going to be at Wembley, in the Twin Towers of the capital of England. Give me the Jaguars.
I'll go Jaguar. Actually, I'll go Patriots. I'm going to go Patriots. Why not? Doesn't matter now. Both of these teams are. This is the first Tank Bowl of the year. All right, we got Seahawks at Falcons.
Give me Atlanta.
I'll go Atlanta too. Titans at Bills.
Sorry, Nick. Buffalo.
I'm going Buffalo as well. Battle for Ohio. A couple of desperate teams here. The Bengals at the Browns.
Bengals, but I'm very disappointed they are 2-4 at this point of the season.
Right. I still think they have some time to climb back into it. So I'm going to go Bengals. The Browns are just a disaster. This is going to be a good... Why is this not a night game? Why is this 1 p.m.? The 5-1 Texans at the 4-2 Green Bay Packers. Come on, NFL. Flex your games, please. This should be a prime time. What's even our primetime game is the Jets and Steelers. Like, what are we doing here? This needs to be a primetime game. But anyway, Texans at Packers. I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Give me Houston.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. I mean, right now, who would you rather have, C.J. Stroud or Jordan Love?
Oh yeah, then Aaron Rodgers against Justin Fields. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got the 2-3 Miami Dolphins versus the 3-3 Indianapolis Colts.
Give me Indianapolis.
I'll get Indianapolis as well. That would put them above 500, which I feel like Jason and a lot of the other friends I've made who are Indianapolis fans would be really surprised with, because they've insisted me the Colts are awful. But hey, they're not awful enough apparently. So now this is another good one here. 4-1 Detroit at 5-0 Minnesota.
The control for the NFC North. Give me Minnesota.
I'm going to go Detroit. I think Detroit pulls this off in Minnesota. Be a huge win for them. All right. Battle for an NFC East here. We have Eagles at Giants.
Give me Eagles. Even though Nick Sirianni really has to control his tantrum. Jesus Christ. Arguing with a fan? That's so low class.
And like, you're in Philadelphia. Like, come on, you have to be able to control yourself better than that in Philadelphia. Like, the fans are going to be chirpy there. I mean, it's Philly. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles. All right, we've got the Raiders without Devontae Adams now because they got rid of them for the Los Angeles Rams. Give me the Rams.
Give me Raiders. This is going to be almost a Raiders home game.
Well, this isn't the Chargers. The Rams actually have fans. But, I mean, you're right. I think there probably still will be more Raiders fans. But the Raiders are, I mean, they may not win any more games the rest of the year at this point. Okay, we got the Carolina Panthers 1-5. But to be fair to them, they have looked better since they benched Bryce Young. Going to the 4-2 Washington Commanders. I think Washington will roll in this one.
Give me Washington.
All right, and this is the primetime afternoon game. We got the undefeated Chiefs going to the 3-3 San Francisco 49ers, who are still kind of reeling from a lot of injuries, but this is still a Super Bowl rematch in San Fran.
Give me San Fran.
I'm going to go Kansas City.
Keep the undefeated season alive.
Yeah, they're going to find a way to win it close on some nonsense. Maybe the refs give them some help. I know they don't have Rasheed Rice anymore, but I just trust Patrick Mahomes more to get it done. All right, we got Jets and Steelers in prime time. Russell Wilson making his season debut.
Give me my New York Jets.
I'm going to agree. Give me the Jets as well. I think benching Justin Fields is the bad idea. So give me the Jets. All right, we have a double header on prime time. So first on ESPN, we have the Ravens at the Bucks.
Give me Tampa Bay. Oh, Tampa, just Tampa. Give me Tampa. Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go Baltimore to win on the road. And weirdly, at 9 p.m. on Monday on ESPN Plus, we have the Chargers at the Cardinals.
Give me Chargers.
I'm going to go Chargers too. What is the deal with this game? Why do we have a 9 p.m. game on a Monday night?
I think it's to promote ESPN Plus. Some sort of a kind of like when Peacock had their game.
That is really interesting. Okay. Yeah, weird time for them to choose, though, I think. But, hey, very interesting game. Now.
Yeah, I think it's because, but since it's an ESPN product, I guess it had to be a Monday night because they have only contract with a Monday Night Football.
That makes sense. All right. So some other quick sports here. MLB playoffs, because we just saw the Dodgers win Game 3. They're up 2-1 now in the NLCS. In the ALCS, we have the Yankees and the Guardians, and the Yankees are up 2-0 in that series after a 6-3 win yesterday against Cleveland. So I guess my question is to you. We now have the Dodgers and Yankees are both ahead in their series. Are we on the inevitable crash course for the Titanic brands that that Rod Manfred is just begging. He is praying for a Dodgers Yankees World Series.
I mean, the Fox executives are probably, praying for all the gods for this to happen because it would be huge ratings for baseball. Of course, the Mets and Yankees will still be a big ratings because both big brand. I think the Guardians are the only team the MLB commissioner and the Fox executives would definitely do not want. But I think Yankees have a 2-0 lead. They're comfortable. Aaron Judge got back on his old form. You know, give me, unfortunately, give me Yankees and Dodgers. I think it's going to be a Titanic uh, core. He's going to be one of the biggest, World Series ever.
Yeah, then the Mets are going to have to win tomorrow if they're going to have any shot of winning this series. They got to win tomorrow to force it to be in the best of 3. If they don't do it, it's going to be Dodgers. They just have too much talent. And the Yankees, I think they're going to be able to take one in Cleveland and come back and win it in New York. Which Yankees Dodgers would be, man, that game would be that would be an unbelievable matchup. I mean, can you imagine what those ticket prices are going to be in LA and New York?
To the roof.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be crazy. And I think it'll be good for baseball. I mean, baseball need, I'm sorry to all these fans, but Rangers and Diamondbacks, I didn't care about that matchup. I don't think a lot of people cared about that matchup because those are two smaller brands that don't really have big national followings. I mean, we're talking about Yankees and Dodgers here. I mean, these will be bigger. These are brands that people have strong opinions on. They will tune in to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I mentioned earlier the Liberty, they got to a 2-1 series lead. And the way they came back, I think it's going to be hard for Minnesota to win 2 straight games. I think the Liberty are going to find a way to get it done. I mean, think about this. New York might win a WNBA championship, and then they still have 2 different shots at winning the MLB championship with the Yankees and the Mets. So good times in non-football sports for New York. Just can't get the Giants and Jets.
Yeah, I'll say outside of football, everything in New York is working well. Even basketball, not only the women but the men's. The Knicks are getting better every single season. So,
absolutely. I do acknowledge the hockey season has started. NHL. Probably the biggest storyline of the year so far is we have a new hockey team this year, the Utah Hockey Club. And that's literally their name. They're like the Washington football team a few years ago. They didn't choose a name. They're just Utah Hockey Club because they moved from Arizona. We no longer have the Arizona Coyotes. They have died as a franchise. So far, my Nashville Predators have not won a game. They're 0-3 so far. And yet last night, they lost 7-3 to the Seattle Kraken. So not a good start off for the Predators. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched any hockey so far, but I just want to acknowledge that they have started. We need to get Dylan Becker on at some point. Get his thoughts on what to watch for this year. The Lightning, though, they're back playing at home, which I was worried that they wouldn't be able to play games this year in Tampa. Things went really south with the Hurricane, but thankfully Tampa got really lucky. So
I wonder
be able to continue playing.
But I wonder when the Tampa Bay Rays are going to play baseball because right now it wouldn't.
Yeah, they're the one team who got screwed. And of course, they're over in St. Petersburg, so they kind of were closer to the coast than Tampa. And I think that really screwed them over. So I'll be very interested to watch what they do with their season. Is this the thing that finally makes them go to Montreal? That would be crazy to watch. And quick NASCAR update. Kyle Larson, he won at the Charlotte Roval, and of course he's going on to the round of 8. But in the shock and turn of events, Alex Bowman of the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports, he had locked himself to the playoff based on performance, but they found a penalty outside of the car during post-race expansion, so he got kicked out of the playoffs after he thought he had made it in. So a really bad break for Alex Bowman because he joined out Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, and Martin Truex Jr. as players who are racers rather that were kicked out of the second round. So right now we still have Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, last year's champion, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Joey Logano are your 8 drivers with 4 races remaining, trying to win a championship. Of course, I mean, it's like I'm not going to sit here and act like that the NASCAR playoffs are the most legitimate championship. Like, it was funny. I saw there's a guy online on Twitter who keeps a running track. If we had the old playoff system, the Winston Cup standings, what those would look like right now, there would be a 7-point difference between Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott. We would have had an incredible playoff race, but an incredible regular season points battle. Like, do you remember the Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen a few years ago in F1 back in 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it would have been in real life. So I wish NASCAR at some point would go back to just a full season points battle. But I get it. They want to be like stick and ball sports, but they have to at some point come to the conclusion you're just not stick and ball. You're NASCAR. You're a racer. But we'll see which one of these 8 drivers win it. Also, do want to acknowledge the F1 is in Austin, Texas this week. They're at Circuit of the Americas for the USGP at Circuit of the Americas. And talk about
what a weekend, by the way, what a weekend in Austin, Texas. I bet finding hotels will be impossible.
Oh God, yeah. Like actually, yeah. There's like a photographer for a different station in Chattanooga. I was talking to him today. He's flying out tomorrow to go to Austin. He's a big F1 fan. You know, of course, I was giving him some grief about saying like, oh, I like NASCAR better. But I'm not the biggest fan in terms of like, excitement. Verstappen is still running away with the driver standings, but I know Lando Norris is second. Leclerc is third. So maybe there will be someone else that wins this race instead of Max Verstappen. Coda for NASCAR is just an okay track, so we'll see what it does for F1. Yeah, but that's some quick racing notes here. In a few weeks, they're coming to Brazil, so we're coming towards the end of this F1 calendar year. But speaking of Brazil, what's going on down in South America?
Yeah, Brazil had 2 really good games in the World Cup South American qualifying, 2-1 against Chile on the road and 4-0 against Peru. So right now, Dorival Jr. is safe at his job. But Botafogo players are more and more influential, like Luis Henrique, and those kind of players from Botafogo are really making an impact towards this national team. And Rafinha, of course, scored twice, both penalties. Andreas Pereira scored once. Igor Jesus had a great game as well, like Luis Henrique, both from Botafogo. So great week for Brazil national team. They are right now, I believe, in fourth place. I'm gonna check. They are in 4th place, 16 points. So I think with those 2 wins, Brazil is almost making to the World Cup. Brazilian Championship started week 30 this Wednesday because of all the changes in scheduling to adjust Brazilian Cup and Brazilian Championship, especially because of all the demands from Flamengo. And as I was updating, São Paulo won 3-0 against Vasco here nearby Americana Campinas. Fortaleza tie 1-1 Atlético Mineiro. Botafogo plays tomorrow on Friday against Criciúma, trying to keep the 3-point lead over Palmeiras, who plays Sunday night at 8 p.m. on the road against Juventude. And last but not least, Brazilian Cup semifinals. Who do you got? Nicholas Hill. Vasco hosting Atlético Mineiro. Vasco, a team that is struggling all season, changed ownership, can make it to their first final in years. Or Atlético Mineiro, richer team, has way more talent, but they have to, go on the road. Who you got? I can hear you.
I am muted. Yes. Yeah. What I was going to say though, based on what you tell me about Vasco da Gama and their constant struggles, give me Atletico Mineiro.
Yeah, and the Millions Derby, the two biggest brands in Brazilian soccer, the two biggest uh, fan groups, Corinthians hosting Flamengo. Of course, Corinthians has been improving, uh, at least in the cup kind of tournament, in the Brazilian Championship, still in the relegation zone. Uh, and Flamengo has kind of, it's so weird because Flamengo has not, if you think about it, not struggled this season. They're fourth place in the Brazilian Championship. Eliminating the quarterfinals of Libertadores on the road against Peñarol is not a terrible thing. It's, of course, it's not good, but it's not humiliating. But it's the last chance to save the season. So, who do you got? Flamengo, Corinthians, or Flamengo? First game, Flamengo 1-0 at home.
I'm going to go Flamingo to get it down the road.
Yeah, I think that too. I think it's gonna be Flamengo as well. I think they're gonna tie the game. But Flamengo and Atlético Mineiro, big um, final of the Brazilian Cup. They both had a really great matchups in the '80s. So another great matchup between them as well. But that's kind of wraps up Brazilian sports and our podcast. I'm so happy, Nick. 3 years of two countries to America's all sports. What a
Absolutely. And let's
honor
keep it
to
going
be.
for many more years to come, for sure.
Yeah,
It's been a lot of fun, and it's going to continue being a lot of fun. And let's hope we're still bring a lot of big wins coming up for teams and for the show. So we're going to keep on tracking here week after week here on the only sports podcast that talks about both American and Brazilian sports. From Chattanooga, Tennessee, I'm Nick Killam. From Americana, Sao Paulo, that is Gus Tomazeli. Go Vols. Let's go get this third Saturday in October.